Are you a current Redtail user and you're having a bit of trouble trying to figure out what types of workflows I should be building for my firm, and more specifically, maybe struggling with how to build out an onboarding workflow whenever you onboard a new client and try to open up and fund new accounts? Well, if that's you, in today's video, we're going to be talking about specifically inside of your Redtail CRM, how to build out that workflow and give you some good ideas and some tips. And also in the description down below, there is a link to actually get this guide for free so that you can build this out into your own Redtail CRM. Hey, it's Matthew. If you're looking to build workflows that actually work and help your firm scale and grow, please feel free to grab your copy of Mastering Strategies to Avoid the RA Disaster. The link will be in the description below. And if you're serious about building workflows, processes, and automations for your firm, let's connect. Schedule an intro call with us using the link in our description below, and we'd be more than happy to get to know you and your firm. All right, now back to the video. All right, so we're currently in Redtail CRM, and essentially what we're going to show you here is a workflow we had built out specifically for when we're onboarding a new client and we need to open up some accounts for them. So what we want to start off with is just giving you a high-level view of what this workflow looks like. So here we have a couple of different steps within this workflow, and within each step of a workflow, we have a couple of tasks that are lined out. So you'll see here, I have the pre-account opening, and kind of think about this as like a data gathering, or maybe you just need to clean up something before you can actually prep the paperwork and send it out to the new client. Next, we have a follow-up process just in case we actually need to gather information or we're missing stuff. We can actually have a step dedicated in the workflow so that we know where we're at in this specific process. Next here, we have our actual signature request. So this is more so along the lines of like creating the DocuSign or maybe e-sign platform that you utilize, and then sending it out to that new client. Next here, and again, another follow-up here, just in case this client is unresponsive. It's going to take them some time to actually open up that account. And then we finally have the last three steps here, which are going to be when we actually receive the account. We just want to make sure we have like our little checklist to actually get that information in, make sure the accounts are getting open and funding is in process. And then we understand funding typically takes a little bit longer whenever you're doing an account transfer or a bank transfer. So we have a step dedicated there for the workflow. And then our final checklist is just some internal things we got to clean up in our CRM. Maybe send a confirmation email out to that client just to let them know that the funds had actually come over. So we're going to dive into specifically how do we build this, what are the steps, and what's necessary to build out your Redtail onboarding workflow for new accounts. So let's go ahead and actually start off by looking at the workflow description and kind of what's inside of it. So typically when we think about an onboarding workflow, this gets launched by some sort of advisor, right? Whether it's a lead, an associate, someone who's giving the team some direction as to like what accounts need to be opened, if there's any additional information we need to note before the account opening happens. So we actually have that inside of the description here in the workflow. So you'll see we have our workflow name here. It's assigned to a specific user, myself. And then we have a category for this specific workflow. It's for initial onboarding. And then we have our target date. So let's say today is, let's just say today is November 7th. And we understand this typically takes around 2 weeks. I'm going to set the target date as November 21st. That's when I want the accounts to be open. That's when I want the funding to be all completed. That's our initial target date. Then I'll go ahead and get into our description here. So I built out this little table here. You can do that pretty easily by clicking this table function and essentially getting the key pieces of information of opening up an account. So on the top here, we have our account type, transfer amount, where the source of funds coming from, the account owner, so who should actually be the one we're opening up this account for, any beneficiaries if needed on the account, and then additional notes, like just leaving some brief notes for your team so that they can do their job. And then finally here, we just left a couple of different resources and guides basically directly to our website, and essentially wanted to show other workflows you should be considering when doing prospecting, when doing onboarding, and then hopefully you get to the point of actually building out some client workflows. So let's go into our actual steps of the workflow here. So again, we give you that high level view there of what the workflow should look like, but let's get into these specific steps. So I'm going to go to this first task here, and I see that we are going to review the accounts that need to be opened. And in the description, I actually need to go into the workflow description. So just like we indicated here, and essentially this whole workflow is going to be assigned to the CSA, or the role of that individual contact. So if I have an assigned to role here, so let's say it's a CSA, they would be assigned to that specific task, or that specific thing that's happening within this workflow step. So think about this from a timeline perspective. If you understand and you know that there's multiple things that happens by different team members, then we would want to assign those to different roles. Like one maybe is an associate advisor, one's a client service associate, and then maybe the other one's for the lead advisor. But again, just like we indicated, most of the time when we're opening up new accounts and we're funding them, the client service team is taking care of those responsibilities. So let's assume that all of these tasks within the workflow steps are going to be assigned to the CSA. So I'll go into our next step here, confirm new client information. This is just a check for me. I want to go inside of Redtail and I want to gather and make sure we have all the necessary information, like date of birth, social security number, address, just things that we need whenever we're opening up a new account. And then we also have built out just a very general email template here, just so that you can utilize right out the box. And again, indicated what we need to do to build out this specific task within the workflow. So we'll go into our next step here. In the final one of this task and this step, we'll go to prepare the new account opening document. So this is going to be in the assumption that we actually have all the information, but here's where we have our first decision tree. So let's say I want to view the outcomes. I'll go right here, click view outcomes. And then I see I have two outcomes that I built. So one that's complete, meaning we have all the information. We can go directly towards actually opening up the account and actually prepping the DocuSign or the e-sign. But we also have another one here. If we're missing information, like maybe we didn't grab their address, their social security number, who their beneficiaries are going to be on the account, this is where we can go into a follow-up process, which is our next step of this workflow. So we are going to be sending up a follow-up email. And again, just like the previous tasks that you saw, we put an email template here, just basic, something that we need to gather from the client. Could be a missing statement as well if we're transferring over an existing account. And then we also indicate anything that we need to input to build out this specific workflow task. So think of this as like a holder and kind of a holding period. So if you know, like, hey, I'm the lead advisor and I launch this workflow for my team, I want to know where we're at in the process, or vice versa. I'm a CSA. I got, let's say, 10 account openings going on at once, and I really don't have the brain capacity to remember all of those. This is your indication to know, oh, here, we're on a follow-up process here with a specific client. And what you can do specifically inside of this workflow task, you can actually add notes. So if you're looking to add notes and you want to be able to just jot down like, hey, like quick notes, we sent out an email today. So let's say the due date is today. What I can do is, let's say I'll go ahead and enter in just a timestamp note saying we emailed the client and we are waiting for some additional documents. And then kind of so on. So what you'll do is then add that next note. So like, let's say we reach out an additional like 3 days. So we reach out on the 13th. What we'll do there is same idea. Put a note in, and let's say the client called us back and we received the information. So in this scenario here, we actually get this information. I went ahead and I'm going to go ahead and update this task. So now we have the notes and I can actually move forward in this process. So again, we'll assume that we don't have the actual information. So we'll go in and go to that follow-up process here. And then once we gather that information from the new client, we have our one outcome here. And now we're ready to open up the account. So whenever we're considering opening up an account and prepping the DocuSign or e-sign here, we got to actually prepare it and upload it. And then we actually have to notify that client just so that they get that double confirmation that this email or this signature request is coming to us. So once I do that, I'm going to complete the step in this workflow. And then we'll go on to our follow-up process whenever we send out a signature request for a new account opening. So I just want to see this at a very high level. I just want to understand, hey, what are the things I have to do? What's my follow-up? So this, again, being a step in this workflow gives you fairly clear instruction as to like what needs to be done, when it needs to be done by. So let's say, and let's assume we have a great client and they respond to us within the hour and they actually get that DocuSign completed. So I'll complete that step. And then my next task here is going to be anything internally that we have to do whenever a e-sign or e-signature request has been completed. Could be a wet sign too, but the process is pretty similar. We need to save those documents into our internal shared filing system. So whether that's OneDrive, ShareFile, Google Drive, or Box, it's all the same. It's essentially saving that so that you're compliant. And we just want to make sure that there's a specific instruction so we get that done. So let's go in and let's say we complete that. And then let's say by chance a client calls into the firm and I get taken away from this and I actually have to open up another tab here and kind of move away from what we're doing inside of this specific workflow. Well, you actually have the ability to see what did I do, what is not complete yet. So let's say I didn't email the client yet. So in our scenario here, let's go back to the workflow and then I see here in this specific step, oh, here's my email template I need to send to the new client, just confirming that we have received their signature and that we're going to be opening up their accounts. So I'm actually going to save and complete this, and that's going to allow me to move forward in the process here. So we'll go in and we will actually get into our step of confirming funding, making sure that the accounts are actually being opened at my custodian. And again, this is where you can put a lot more descriptive details if you have a specific process, like let's say you custody with Schwab or Fidelity, any other custodian out there, then what you can do is essentially put in your specific standard operating procedure or kind of like your step-by-step playbook, right? Internally for your firm that you understand directly inside of this task in the workflow step. So let's say this takes typically around like 2 weeks or so. We've already accounted for that inside of the workflow here. So the due date gets pushed out pretty far out to the 21st from our initial, let's say, target day or the day that we started this workflow. And in this scenario, let's say a week or two passes and the funds actually come over to that new account. We'll go ahead and complete the step. And we'll go to our final checklist here. So essentially, like, our final checklist is just something that's going to be for us. We know that we have to do a couple of things to clean up everything. So that first one, we just want to send a email out to the client or that new client just to make sure that they know that the funds have transferred over. There's nothing else that we need to do for them. We're pretty much squared away with this onboarding process when we're opening up the new account. So let's say we go ahead and see this email and we copy it over, send it out to the new client. I'll save and complete this. And then our final step here, let's say again, this is dependent on firm to firm, so make edits as necessary. But let's say that our next step here is to actually update the new accounts in our financial planning software. So we know there's a lot of out there. You have Right Capital, eMoney, MoneyGuide Pro, any other platforms that you can think of, like if you use any specialized financial planning tools, or maybe you update their accounts somewhere else. This is going to be something that you want to be able to document and put into your specific workflow so that you understand my team's getting these things done. There's clear direction as to what needs to be done after the account has been opened and funded. So again, just a high level view here. I'm going to go ahead and complete it. And that's our final step of the workflow. So once this is done, I no longer have any responsibility. If I choose to, I can have a step in this workflow to notify that lead advisor, maybe to schedule that next meeting. Could be a final step in this workflow here, part of like that checklist to schedule the next meeting with that new client. But essentially trying to understand and give clarity here around what we've seen work for a lot of financial advisors who utilize Redtail CRM when they're trying to build out an onboarding workflow for new accounts and account transfers. So hopefully that gives you some clarity there on the Redtail workflows, specifically for onboarding new accounts. And again, you can grab the guide in the description below. We got a link, and if you use your Redtail email, as well as just brief information like your first and last name, we'll go ahead and send you that PDF guide so you can don't have to follow along specifically with this video. We'll give you a PDF so you can copy and paste and create your own Redtail workflow inside of your CRM.